Hello everyone and welcome back to this month's teaching. I want to talk to you about acting on impulse. If we are impulsive on a regular basis, it can have a devastating effect on our lives. So although the title Acting on Impulse may at first sight seem relatively unimportant, it is in fact a very big deal. I remember when I was in England watching commercials on the television. I remember a particular one where a young woman was wearing a new spray perfume. The perfume was called Impulse. And as she put on this perfume and walked down the street, a young man smelt the perfume as he went by her and immediately rushed off to buy her a bunch of flowers. The slogan was, "Men cannot help acting on impulse." It's very true. I remember the advert years later. Impulsive buying is very common. In the supermarket, in the stores, in the showrooms, the salesmen want us to buy. They want their commission. And so we're encouraged to sit on the new furniture or to try the new motorbike or, of course, the new mobile phone. Try it, test it, wear it. Put it in our hands so that we can try it. That's their technique. Salesmen encourage us to make those quick decisions. Surveys have shown that 80% of non-essential purchases are purchases made on impulse. And this keeps many people in a cycle of debt. Salesmen are also aware of a phenomenon which is called after-sales remorse, where people go back the next day or a few days later and take back the item they bought and say, "I'm very sorry, but I can't really afford it. I made a mistake. It was a hasty decision, and please could I have a refund?" Now, as Christians, we're supposed to live on a higher level. Paul wrote in the letter to Rome, in Romans 13 and verse 8, he said this, "Owe no man anything except to love them." The Amplified Bible says, "Keep out of debt." And if we act impulsively, it keeps us in this cycle of debt with no money left because we've spent it all because we acted on impulse. Last month we looked at bringing the tithe to God to honour him, putting God first with the tithe. But if we belong to God, which we do as Christians, then all of our possessions actually belong to God, and we should be giving offerings to support Christian mission. We won't have the money to do that if we're impulsive. A big step forward is realizing that we are in fact stewards. And Paul wrote to the church at Corinth saying that we should be faithful as stewards. In Luke 16, Jesus told us that stewards would have to give an account. And Paul, in his letters, wrote twice about the judgment seat of Christ. We'll have to speak face to face with him and tell him how we spent our money and our time. If we encounter a pushy salesman, this is a good technique. Say to them, "Listen, I'm very interested in buying this, but I need time to think." And if you want to be a little bit more open about your Christian faith, you can say, "I need time to pray." Now, they may not be pleased, but our objective is not to please the salesman, it's to please God. Impulsiveness, in fact, is carnal behaviour. And if we are carnal in our behaviour, then we are, as Paul describes in his letter to Corinth, unspiritual, behaving like mere unchanged men under the control of ordinary impulses. Carnal behaviour comes from carnal thinking. And Romans 8:6 tells us that carnal thinking leads to death and all the misery associated with death. So if we're miserable, it's because we're carnal, led by our five senses. Well, it looks so nice, or it felt so good. We must unplug from this type of behaviour. We'll need the grace of God to do that, and that grace, of course, is available on a daily basis. So this is our challenge this month, to stop acting on impulse. We can do it. We need the grace to do it, but we can do it. Now I just want to draw your attention to a couple of other things on the website. In the CD section, I've recorded a 60-minute teaching called Knowing the Character of Your Spouse. Very important if we're to understand and live in harmony with our husband or wife. And my wife, of course, has got a very important teaching on meeting the Father. Veronica's been to second and third heaven. Awesome experiences, which she describes on her CD teaching. I really encourage you to listen. They're online, free to air. And also, if you've enjoyed this teaching, you can study it in much more detail and in different languages by reading the article itself in its written form. So I'm glad you could join me this month. God bless you and have a great month.